A brown-haired girl works diligently at her computer desk as the setting sun fills her room.
She swoons over Prince Isaac from the manga I Can Hear Your Inner Voice and wishes to be its heroine. She gasps as magical gears and mystical symbols suddenly manifest throughout her room. A massive glowing magic circle erupts around the bewildered girl, lifting her into a sparkling void. Her scream echoes through the darkness as the room disappears and her computer screen goes dark.
Waking in a lavish room, she realizes she has been reincarnated as the manga's heroine, Charlotte.
She excitedly anticipates romancing the hero and being able to hold him. A maid informs Charlotte that the cathedral ceremony is starting and that her father is searching for her. A narrative frame explains that her wish for the prince to know her feelings triggers their romance. Charlotte hurries out of the room, eager to attend the fated ceremony. The scene shifts to the grand cathedral where sunbeams illuminate the ornate interior. Inside the quiet hall, Charlotte and her maids kneel together on the patterned stone floor. As the prayer continues, Charlotte struggles against a wave of sleepiness. A decorative frame signals a passage of time, indicating that 1 hour has passed. The maid suggests resting in the lounge, but Charlotte insists she is fine before falling asleep on a couch.
Despite her earlier protest, Charlotte fell into a very deep sleep the moment she lay down.
The maid gently covers the sleeping Charlotte with a blanket as she rests on the couch.
Charlotte wakes up in a panic and realizes she has overslept. Charlotte looks around in a dazed worry as she processes her mistake. She rushes through the halls, distraught because she missed the fated descent of the angel. Charlotte runs down the empty cathedral aisle, desperate to reach the fated meeting.
She stops suddenly in her tracks and gasps when she spots a mysterious figure. A dark-haired man claims he was waiting for her and questions why she remained behind.
Charlotte looks up at the mysterious man with sparkling eyes, enchanted by his appearance.
She asks the perceived angel for help, explaining her unrequited love for Prince Isaac. She requests that he use magic to let Prince Isaac hear her heart. She offers to do anything for him, while he internally mocks her poor taste in men.
He agrees to the deal, intending to show her the prince's true nature.
She thanks the angel, but he reveals that he is actually a demon.
He admits he is 5 centuries old and has already cast a spell on her. He explains that the spell allows her to hear Isaac's inner voice instead of the reverse.
Later, Charlotte searches for info on demons and asks her father, Marquis Casalea, about their existence. Her father sternly warns her to stop looking into such matters and never speak of them again. He instructs her to prepare for her role as his escort at the upcoming New Year's banquet.
At the royal palace, a nervous Charlotte spots Prince Isaac in the middle of the crowd.
She hears Isaac's inner thoughts calling the women around him annoying and desperate. Shocked, Charlotte realizes the demon spell is working and that Isaac's thoughts are rude. Charlotte is horrified to find that the wonderful gentleman from the manga is actually quite unpleasant.
As she greets him, she hears him mentally leering at her appearance in a vulgar manner.
She is outraged by his perverted thoughts and internally labels him as the worst. While he compliments her beauty aloud, she feels insulted by how he sizes her up.
She tries to leave, but Isaac stops her and suggests they find a place to chat privately.
Detecting his clear ulterior motives, the young lady reacts with a look of absolute disgust. Her father watches from afar, pleased that the prince seems interested in his daughter. While her father celebrates, Charlotte resolves to show the prince that she is not easily won. She questions his presence while he arrogantly assumes she is drawn to his charm. Charlotte makes her lack of interest clear, while Isaac's thoughts turn to dark fantasies of restraint. She yells at his inner voice to stop as he continues his mental mockery. He assumes her anger is just shyness, while she becomes determined to make him understand. Charlotte throws her drink directly into Prince Isaac's face, leaving him stunned and dripping. The crowd gasps as Charlotte splashes wine on Isaac, while her father calls out in alarm. Charlotte demands Isaac take her words literally, declaring she has no interest in him whatsoever. Isaac mentally finds her entertaining while acting polite, as Charlotte internally brands him a total pervert. Horrified by the prince's true nature, Charlotte urgently decides she must get away from him immediately. Her father asks if the prince acted inappropriately, surprising Charlotte with his unexpected concern and support. Charlotte reassures her father of her caution as Prince Isaac watches them from the palace background. Duke Maynard approaches Charlotte with an outstretched hand, requesting the honor of a dance with her.
Marquise Casalea declines the prince's request on Charlotte's behalf, stating she is currently feeling quite unwell.
Isaac is offended by the rejection while Charlotte lies about her cycle to avoid the dance. Charlotte dreads touching the prince, but a sudden familiar voice calls out her name from behind.
Duke Maynard reminds Charlotte of a previous promise to dance, much to her surprise and relief.
Isaac questions Maynard's presence, while Maynard claims a long friendship with Charlotte to secure their dance. The Duke firmly takes Charlotte's hand, insisting their dance was arranged long before this evening's event. Duke Maynard leads Charlotte toward the dance floor, asking her to join him for the performance. A lone musician plays a trumpet as the grand ballroom prepares for the next formal dance. Charlotte expresses her gratitude while questioning the Duke's true identity as the Grand Duke of Zine. Maynard confirms his title, leaving Charlotte confused because he previously claimed to be a literal demon. Maynard warns that prying into a demon's secrets can lead to paying a terrifyingly high price. Fearful of his cryptic warning, Charlotte asks the Duke not to threaten her for being curious. Charlotte recalls Maynard's minor role in the manga as he offers to reveal his personal history. Maynard's eye glows green as magical energy swirls around the pair during their waltz. Transported 500 years into the past, Charlotte witnesses Maynard's demon form and questions her surroundings. A desperate king begs the demon Maynard to spare his country in exchange for anything requested. Maynard questions the king's offer, prompting the monarch to offer his own soul to seal peace. Charlotte watches the fated meeting between the ancient king and the demon in the palace hall. Maynard explains the past is immutable, while Charlotte denounces him as a cruel and merciless demon. The king offers to grant Maynard's wish to live as a human within the nation's borders. The demon reaches out a finger toward the king's head to begin the mystical contract ceremony. Maynard warns that the king's soul will belong to him, but the king remains completely resolute. The king pledges his soul for eternity in exchange for the perpetual protection of his beloved citizens. Bathed in a radiant light, Maynard processes his transformation into a human for the first time. Charlotte accuses him of disregarding human lives, but Maynard tells her to watch until the end. Chibi Maynard scolds Charlotte for her rash judgment as she remains bewildered by the unfolding vision. Charlotte views several fallen bodies and immediately assumes that the demon was responsible for their deaths. Maynard asks for her patience, insisting she see the entirety of the memory before making conclusions. The demon releases waves of red magical energy over the people lying on the ground. Charlotte mistakenly asks if he is destroying the bodies, but his magic has a different purpose. To Charlotte's immense shock, the people suddenly awaken and return to life thanks to his magic. Charlotte is captivated by the incredible display of power, calling the demon's miraculous actions truly amazing. Maynard explains his true goal was humanity, not murder, while Charlotte questions why he chose mortality. Charlotte notes the hardships of human life, but Maynard suggests she will eventually understand his choice. Realizing his extreme age, Charlotte questions Maynard about his longevity as he humorously admits he forgot. Charlotte remains confused why he would ever trade his immortal powers and body for human fragility. Maynard asks if she knows his original home and instructs her to close her eyes once more. A vibrant magical seal manifests, preparing to transport Charlotte and the Duke to the demon realm. Arriving in the dark demon realm, Charlotte struggles to see through the oppressive, shadowy landscape. Magical currents surge through the desolate world as they arrive at the heart of the demon territory. Charlotte is horrified by the sight of the barren wasteland and the screeching shadow creatures nearby. Terrified by his home realm, Charlotte begs to leave as Maynard prepares to show her more. Overwhelmed by the dark environment, Charlotte insists she has seen enough and desperately asks to return. Maynard assures Charlotte of her safety while he remains by her side as the king. Maynard prepares for flight, instructing Charlotte to mount his shoulder as massive wings unfurl. Charlotte hesitantly agrees to climb aboard as Maynard kneels to facilitate her quick ascent. The pair takes flight, soaring above the landscape as Charlotte clings to Maynard's back. Amidst the journey, Charlotte experiences a profound realization regarding Maynard's desire for a human life. Maynard prepares to return to the human realm, urging Charlotte to close her eyes tightly. Charlotte exhibits a joyful expression, anticipating their imminent return to the familiar first world. Back at the banquet, Isaac approaches the dancing pair, much to Charlotte's internal dismay. Charlotte attempts a hasty departure, leaving Maynard behind as she seeks to escape Isaac's presence. Isaac feels humiliated by the rejection and resolves to abduct Charlotte under the cover of night. Maynard mocks Isaac's lack of confidence, prompting the prince to demand respect for his status. Following the tense exchange, Prince Isaac retreats into the palace halls with a frustrated demeanor. Maynard remains unfazed by the prince's threats, but Charlotte urgently asks him to wait. Catching up to the Duke, Charlotte questions why he is following her through the gardens. Charlotte confronts Maynard, asking if he was already aware of Isaac's true, unsavory personality. Describing her past feelings as a mistake, Charlotte receives a final warning regarding Isaac's danger. Charlotte watches Maynard depart, wondering if their strange association has truly come to an end. The scene transitions to the quiet exterior of Charlotte's bedroom during the late hours. Inside the lavish room, Charlotte sleeps peacefully, unaware of a dark shadow looming nearby. A mysterious hooded figure named Darius infiltrates the room, commenting on Charlotte's undeniable beauty. Darius conjures a dark magical orb, hovering it over the sleeping lady to begin a spell. Intending to suppress her soul, the sorcerer weaves a complex magical energy around the unconscious Charlotte. Charlotte remains trapped in a deep, magically induced slumber while the room remains quiet. Using a powerful teleportation circle, Darius vanishes from the bedroom with the kidnapped young lady. The scene transitions to a grim underground hideout filled with instruments of restraint and torture. Isaac and Darius discuss a curse placed upon Charlotte as she lies helpless on a bed. Prince Isaac commands Darius to wake her, expressing his desire for a conscious, compliant captive. Darius channels purple magical energy into Charlotte's body, forcing her to awaken from the trance. The magical currents surge through Charlotte, forcefully pulling her back into a state of consciousness. Under the influence of a suggestive curse, Charlotte greets Isaac and pledges her romantic devotion. Isaac dismisses Darius to guard the entrance, then instructs a dazed Charlotte to dress herself.
The prince gestures toward an elaborate dark outfit he has chosen for Charlotte to wear. Seated out of vanity, a vacant-eyed Charlotte mechanically prepares her appearance for the prince.
Now dressed in the provocative Gothic attire, Charlotte stands ready in the dimly lit hideout. Isaac admires the results of the transformation, ordering Charlotte to lie upon the red bed.
Charlotte complies with the command, though a spark of internal resistance begins to flicker.
The prince smiles maliciously while demanding that Charlotte reach out her hand to him. Fighting the mental fog, Charlotte hesitates, causing Isaac to grow impatient and raise his voice. Isaac threatens her for the delay, preparing a set of heavy iron shackles for her.
Charlotte squeezes her eyes shut, desperately struggling to regain control over her own physical movements.
Despite Isaac's assurances of pleasure, Charlotte's internal monologue screams for her body to obey her. Breaking through the magical suppression, Charlotte screams for the prince to stop his advances immediately.
Charlotte delivers a stunning blow to Isaac, leaving the prince reeling from her sudden resistance. Well, he did ask for a hand.
Declaring herself to be his superior ancestor, Charlotte continues her assault on the disgraced royal. Isaac cowers on the floor in pain as Charlotte looms over him with righteous fury. When Darius attempts to intervene, Charlotte seizes a nearby object and strikes the sorcerer down.
The hooded mage falls to the ground, incapacitated by Charlotte's unexpected and overwhelming physical strength.
Charlotte stands triumphantly over the defeated men, though Darius weakly tries to block her path. Identifying Darius as a major antagonist, Charlotte braces herself as he retaliates with magical bindings. Charlotte reveals her knowledge of Darius's secret motives, questioning his true reasons for serving the prince.
The dark-haired sorcerer questions Charlotte's knowledge while she recalls studying every detail of the original story. Charlotte exposes Darius's true motivation for serving the prince, stunning him with her specific insights regarding his late wife. Darius asks if she knows the artifact's location, to which she confidently confirms her absolute knowledge.
She offers a deal, promising to reveal the stone's whereabouts if the sorcerer obeys her instructions exactly.
Darius agrees to obey even a murderous command, while Charlotte prepares to share her unconventional plan.
Charlotte begins to outline her demands as the sorcerer listens intently to her unexpected terms. Charlotte reinforces her proposal, and the sorcerer decisively commits to her plan in exchange for the stone.
The scene shifts to Prince Isaac, who has been bound and restrained upon a crimson bed.
A stranger approaches the bound prince, mockingly suggesting that he was sent to provide some entertainment. Isaac screams in terror as the stranger moves in, while a narrative box censors the unfolding event.
Charlotte leads Duke Maynard to the location of the Resurrection Stone as detailed in the original manga.
Charlotte assures the skeptical Duke of her honesty regarding the artifact's hidden location within the palace.
Charlotte highlights the challenge of infiltrating the area, noting the formidable presence of the royal guards nearby.
The Duke pauses to question Charlotte's true identity, increasingly intrigued by her mysterious and accurate knowledge.
Charlotte avoids the question, insisting that her benevolence is the only thing the Duke truly needs to know.
She bids the Duke a cheerful farewell, leaving him alone as she heads back toward the palace.
Charlotte strolls through the sunlit gardens, enjoying a brief moment of peace after her successful maneuvering.
Charlotte is startled to encounter the prince, shocked that he has managed to return to the public eye.
A livid Prince Isaac calls out her name, his eyes burning with an intense and menacing rage.
Isaac angrily confronts Charlotte, while she retorts by condemning his previous attempt to use magic against her.
The prince vows to kill her, lamenting the humiliating loss of his dignity at her hands. Charlotte realizes with horror that Darius took her vague instructions about satisfying the prince way too literally. Accepting the impossibility of a reconciliation, Charlotte prepares for more conflict as Isaac forcefully detains her. Charlotte demands her release, threatening to create a public scene if the prince does not let her go.
Isaac boasts about his authority over the crowd as a new voice commandingly orders Charlotte's immediate release.
Maynard stands tall with a cold gaze, confronting the prince and challenging his control over the situation.
The Duke issues a final, stern ultimatum, which the defiant prince immediately and arrogantly rejects.
Desperate and cornered, Isaac draws a blade and threatens Charlotte's life to keep the Duke at bay.
Paralyzed by fear, Charlotte attempts to de-escalate the situation by offering to listen to the prince's grievances.
The Duke unleashes a lethal burst of red magical energy, prompting a panicked reaction from the prince.
Maynard struggles against a magical contract that forces him to protect the prince despite his own desires.
A strange magical reaction occurs, causing both Maynard and Charlotte to falter as the prince experiences a shock. The prince collapses as the curse backfires, screaming for assistance as the magical energy consumes him. Maynard catches Charlotte as she falls, protecting her even while he continues to battle his own exhaustion. Maynard prepares to teleport, calling out his command as a glowing magical seal forms beneath them.
Maynard unfurls his massive dark wings and activates a complex transportation spell to escape the area. Arriving in a serene landscape of falling petals, a bewildered Charlotte questions their current whereabouts.
The pair land safely within the lush, private gardens belonging to Duke Maynard's sprawling country estate.
Charlotte worries about the Duke's weakened state, but he dismisses her concerns as a temporary magical cost.
The Duke appears visibly drained, his normally sharp features softened by the heavy toll of his magic.
Charlotte watches in curiosity as Maynard plucks a small cluster of yellow blossoms from the ground.
Maynard confirms the healing properties of the flora and expresses a desperate need for a moment of rest.
The powerful Duke collapses into an immediate deep sleep, leaving Charlotte to observe his vulnerable, exhausted state. Charlotte notices a deep, bleeding laceration on her hand, a remnant of the prince's violent dagger threat.
The young lady is startled by the severity of her injury, which seems to have worsened unexpectedly.
Recalling her earlier experience, Charlotte hopes that the Duke's medicinal flowers might also heal her own wound.
Charlotte closes her eyes and deeply inhales the scent of the yellow blossoms, testing their restorative powers. To her disappointment, the flowers fail to produce any magical healing effect on her injured hand.
Anxious about the persistent bleeding, Charlotte decides she must take more drastic measures to treat herself.
Charlotte stares determinedly at her injury, steeling herself for whatever difficult task lies ahead in her recovery.
Chibi Charlotte poses cutely amidst a background of music notes and sparkling stars.
Charlotte lets out a wide yawn, admitting that she is also beginning to feel sleepy.
Charlotte complains about the bumpy ground, finding it far too difficult to sleep comfortably outside. Realizing a solution, Charlotte decides to use Maynard's large wings as a makeshift soft bed.
Charlotte lies down contentedly on the grass next to the sleeping and exhausted Duke Maynard.
Maynard remains asleep while Charlotte prepares to settle onto the edge of his dark wing.
Finding the wings incredibly soft and comfortable, Charlotte happily falls asleep beside the resting Duke.
Charlotte stretches after a good rest, while Maynard watches her wake from his leaning position.
Startled to find Maynard staring at her, Charlotte screams and calls him a pervert.
Charlotte grabs Maynard's hands, accusing him of planning an attack while he looks completely unimpressed. Maynard points out that Charlotte used his wings as a bed, prompting her sheepish apology.
Charlotte reaches out to gently touch Maynard's large red wing as she sits beside him.
In her chibi form, Charlotte politely offers to give the Duke his wings back now. Maynard sternly tells Charlotte to prepare her own bed and forbids her from touching him.
Charlotte asks if they can return home, confused about their location and wanting her original world.
Maynard sharply tells her not to touch him as she reaches for his large wing.
Charlotte calls him stingy but begs for a way back, while Maynard warns about the prince.
Fearing Prince Isaac's obsession, Charlotte decides she will stay until the prince has forgotten her.
Maynard notices Charlotte's bandaged hand, recalling that she suffered an injury during the previous day.
Charlotte dismisses her injury as a minor scratch, but Maynard moves in to inspect it closely.
The Duke firmly grasps Charlotte's hand to examine the injury she sustained from the prince.
Maynard warns her that the process will sting before preparing to use his magic.
Maynard channels a glowing magical aura into Charlotte's injured hand while holding a white healing blossom.
Charlotte winces and complains about the pain, finding the magical healing process surprisingly quite painful. Charlotte is amazed by the result, and Maynard boasts that everything in this domain is his. The scene shifts focus to Maynard's eyes, which suddenly widen as he experiences a sharp shock.
Maynard clutches his chest in agony, realizing that another magical attack is beginning to affect him.
The Duke warns Charlotte to stay away, fearing he might lose control and accidentally harm her.
Maynard explains that his demon nature makes the backlash dangerous, while Charlotte urges him to breathe.
Maynard hunches over in the flower field, struggling against the intense pain of his internal curse.
Maynard suffers through a mental vision of chains, while Charlotte prays for his immediate recovery.
From a distance, Charlotte watches Maynard collapse into the flowers, unable to do anything but worry.
Charlotte runs toward the fallen Duke, frantically asking if he is all right after his sudden collapse.
Charlotte looks down at Maynard with deep concern, whispering his name as he lies on the ground.
Maynard demands she stay back, but Charlotte insists she cannot leave him while he is suffering.
Charlotte tries to use the healing flower, but Maynard argues that its effect is only temporary.
Maynard orders her to leave, yet Charlotte vows to stay by his side during the ordeal.
Maynard's gaze turns predatory as he loses his reason, and Charlotte reacts with a panicked gasp.
The Duke roughly grabs Charlotte's wrist, prompting her to beg him to stay calm and focused. Maynard pins Charlotte against a tree, his reason gone, making her fear that her end is near. Maynard suddenly regains his senses and calls her name, while a dazed Charlotte coughs for air. Maynard realizes he lost control again, while Charlotte confirms the scary intensity of his previous state.
The Duke asks if she was the one who called out to him during his trance.
Charlotte admits she was terrified, while her chibi self expresses how close she felt to death.
Maynard questions why she didn't stay away, but Charlotte insists she could not ignore his pain.
Maynard asks why she cares since they aren't family, and Charlotte retorts that she isn't heartless.
Charlotte asks about the curse backlash, and Maynard clarifies that it stems from a magical contract.
Maynard explains his ancient promise to the king to protect every human being within this land. Maynard details the eternal promise to never harm royal descendants, making the backlash for breaking it massive.
Chibi Charlotte expresses her outrage, calling the Duke's contract an unfair deal and active bullying. Maynard questions whether a human would actually choose to stand by his side.
Charlotte argues that character transcends race, questioning if Isaac is even worth protecting. A pensive silence follows as the Duke absorbs the weight of Charlotte's words.
Charlotte watches him closely, her expression softening as the tension begins to slowly dissipate.
Maynard offers a meal while asking if Charlotte harbors any hatred toward demonkind.
Charlotte accepts the food and inquires about their location, noting his vast resources.
Maynard refuses to reveal the secret, prompting a frustrated reaction from a chibi Charlotte.
Charlotte asks if she will be granted her freedom once he has fully recovered.
The Duke focuses on his restoration, his wings unfurling amidst a surge of energy.
Maynard's intense red gaze reflects his returning power and the gravity of their situation.
Maynard confirms his full recovery as Charlotte observes the fading remnants of his magic.
Chibi Charlotte learns that the curse backlash is merely a temporary state of suffering. Charlotte laughs in relief, admitting she feared he might actually lose against Prince Isaac.
Maynard senses disappointment in her tone, though Charlotte insists she was simply surprised. A small white bird lands on Maynard's shoulder, signaling a brief moment of peace.
Maynard notes the necessity of leaving soon as the surrounding magical environment begins shifting. Charlotte asks if something happened while Maynard senses an urgent need to take action. Maynard urges Charlotte to return home, warning her that her father is in Chodol. The scene shifts to the Marquis facing intense questioning from a group of guards.
Prince Isaac demands to know Charlotte's location, his expression dark and increasingly menacing. Isaac mocks the Marquis, claiming his daughter sought the Grand Duke's help before fleeing.
The Marquis remains defiant, insisting he truly has no knowledge of his daughter's whereabouts. Isaac looms over the captive Marquis, his cold eyes promising consequences for his silence. Isaac warns that playing dumb will result in a heavy price for the older man. Isaac calls him a fool, promising to break his spirit with more forceful methods.
The prince commandingly orders his guards to bring the Marquis forward for immediate interrogation.
The Marquis defies Isaac's threats, challenging the prince to do his worst without hesitation. A guard roughly restrains the Marquis, preparing to ensure total compliance through physical force. Isaac watches with a cruel smile as the interrogation takes a much more violent turn. The Marquis laments the prince's hidden viciousness, never imagining he could be this sadistic. Isaac offers release in exchange for information, but the Marquis stoically welcomes death instead. Isaac rejects the Marquis's defiance as a sharp cry of pain echoes through the room. Isaac asks if the Marquis is still unwilling to talk after receiving the leg wound. Isaac sets a final deadline just as Charlotte's voice demands her father's immediate release. Charlotte appears shocked that Isaac went to such extreme lengths to track her down.
Isaac gloats over her presence, while Charlotte admits she only returned to stop his tyranny.
Isaac wonders how Charlotte anticipates his thoughts as she faces him with resolve.
Charlotte rushes to her injured father, frantically checking his condition as the prince watches.
The Marquis reassures her while Charlotte offers to surrender if Isaac releases her father.
Glowing magical thorns pulse in the background, signaling the danger of their tense negotiation. Isaac accepts the trade with a dark smile, satisfied to finally regain his control. Isaac orders the Marquis's release as Charlotte is led away by heavily armored guards. Charlotte maintains a determined gaze, steeling herself for the trials ahead with the prince. Charlotte wonders about his plans, relieved that Maynard isn't there to face this danger. Isaac suddenly grabs Charlotte's face, startling her with an intrusive display of physical dominance. Charlotte demands he stop, but Isaac pulls her closer with a vengeful look in his eyes. Isaac commandingly orders her to be silent, his grip firm as he asserts his authority. Isaac brings up her past actions, vowing to make her repay her debt in full. Charlotte asks what he plans to do, maintaining her resolve despite his menacing presence. Isaac reveals his plan to complete the ritual they were unable to finish before.
Charlotte's expression shifts to shock as she listens to the unfolding events around her.
Charlotte glares with determination, her eyes sharp as she prepares to face the prince. The focus turns to Charlotte's elegant attire, emphasizing her high status despite the current danger. In a comedic cut, chibi Charlotte is comically rebuffed as the prince rejects her interference.
Isaac mocks Charlotte's defiance, claiming he finds it more satisfying to break strong-willed women.
Charlotte considers Isaac a disgusting man while he dismissively orders her to follow him. A stern voice commands them to stop, interrupting the prince's attempt to lead Charlotte away. Delicate blue flowers sway as the atmosphere suddenly shifts with the arrival of a newcomer. Duke Maynard makes a grand entrance, his presence immediately commanding the attention of everyone present. King Harold arrives and furiously demands an explanation for his son's aggressive and irrational behavior. Isaac is visibly shaken as his father looms over him with an expression of pure disappointment. King Harold slaps the prince, rebuking his blatant abuse of royal authority over the nobility.
A stunned Isaac wonders why his doting father would strike him over such a matter.
Isaac attempts to blame Charlotte for scheming against him, hoping to regain his father's favor.
Charlotte refutes the prince's lies as King Harold reveals he has already been fully informed.
Harold places all blame on Isaac and commandingly orders him to apologize to everyone involved. Charlotte remains perplexed, questioning why the king is acting against his notoriously favored son.
Maynard stands protectively near Charlotte, his silent presence acting as a deterrent against further aggression. Charlotte offers a respectful curtsy to King Harold, acknowledging his intervention in the tense situation.
The scene shifts to a nighttime discussion between the king and the prince within the palace. Harold explains that being royalty does not grant the right to treat the nobility like nothing. Harold mentions Maynard's involvement, but Isaac foolishly claims he has no reason to fear him. Harold inwardly curses his son's ignorance, unable to reveal Maynard's true identity as a demon. Harold warns against angering Maynard, while Isaac arrogantly offers to quietly dispose of the Duke.
Harold orders Isaac to avoid any actions that might provoke the Duke's dangerous wrath.
A lavish spread of food is prepared, signaling a moment of temporary peace and hospitality.
Charlotte politely invites Maynard to dine, referring to the powerful Duke as her respected savior.
Maynard accepts the invitation, choosing to forego formal ceremony as he sits down to eat.
Harold thanks Maynard for saving Charlotte while she offers to repay the Duke's kindness.
The three share a meal in the grand dining hall, though the underlying tension remains palpable. Charlotte asks how Maynard convinced the king, and the Duke notes Harold is a good ruler. Maynard admits he respects Harold for never treating him with hatred despite knowing his demon nature. Maynard recounts how past kings either feared him or tried to control him using the contract. In her chibi form, Charlotte appears to be contemplating a secret plan or scheme of her own. Maynard tells her to use him if possible, though he dismisses her as merely human. Charlotte quickly claims she was only joking after Maynard compares her nature to Prince Isaac's.
The two continue their walk, the dynamic between them evolving into something more complex and personal.
Charlotte winces in pain as Maynard suddenly pokes her forehead, breaking the serious mood. Maynard identifies as the country's protector, and Charlotte insists she is part of that protected populace. Maynard gazes intensely at Charlotte, his eyes reflecting a newfound sense of responsibility toward her. Maynard confirms that Charlotte falls within the range of people he is obligated to protect. Charlotte blushes furiously, realizing she is falling for the Duke's charms despite the chaotic circumstances. Maynard instructs her to call for him in times of danger, prompting Charlotte's confusion. The Duke commandingly asks for Charlotte's hand to bestow a special magical gift upon her. Maynard transfers a magical crest to Charlotte's palm, explaining it will allow her voice to reach him. Charlotte gazes at the glowing yellow sigil now permanently etched onto the skin of her hand. Maynard suggests they perform an immediate test of the crest's communication abilities to ensure it works. Charlotte remains skeptical, questioning if such a powerful magical connection is truly possible through a touch. Standing alone in the garden, Charlotte prepares to speak, wondering if the Duke can hear her. Maynard tells Charlotte to say one sentence so he can prove the link by repeating it back. Charlotte realizes the magical crust facilitates two-way communication and expresses her newfound trust in Maynard's promises. Maynard leans down and gently takes Charlotte's hand to solidify their growing bond through a magical touch. Sparkles fill Charlotte's eyes as she gazes back at the Duke with a sudden sense of admiration. Charlotte thinks the Duke looks incredibly handsome as a faint magical aura begins to glow around them. In a comedic chibi moment, Maynard leads Charlotte away while she wears a grumpy and pouting expression. Maynard reminds Charlotte of tomorrow's national festival, questioning if she has received a formal invitation as well. Maynard pauses and looks back, realizing Charlotte might have been unaware of the upcoming celebration until now. Charlotte asks if the Duke intends to attend the festival despite his well-known preference for solitary living. Maynard notes his obligation to attend the ball before Isaac seethes over being forbidden by his father. Isaac seethes over his house arrest while his cloaked companion silently listens to his frustrated and angry rants. Isaac demands revenge for his confinement while the cloaked man offers a secret way to attend the ball.
The schemer laments his failure to find the resurrection stone while Isaac agrees to follow his lead.
The cloaked man pulls a mysterious item from his robes, asking the prince to take a look.
He presents a magical doll, explaining it can assume the prince's form while Isaac questions its true effectiveness. The cloaked man activates a substitution spell, surrounding the doll with dark and swirling magical energy. A remarkable double of Isaac sits at the desk, earning both the real prince and the aide's approval. The cloaked schemer smirks, satisfied that his plan to deceive the royal guards is working perfectly. The scene shifts to the moonlit royal palace, where the grand festival is now officially underway. Charlotte attends the ball in a stunning yellow gown, seated amongst a group of other noble ladies. Charlotte scans the ballroom, wondering if the Duke has already made a quiet early exit from the party. Charlotte's eyes dark across the room, searching for Maynard's familiar presence amidst the crowd of guests. Charlotte spots Maynard in the distance, looking incredibly stiff as a group of noblewomen surrounds him. Charlotte observes Maynard's clear discomfort as he is relentlessly pursued by the persistent ladies at the ball. Several noblewomen beg for the Duke's attention, questioning why he has chosen to stay for so long. Seeing Maynard's plight, Charlotte hides a playful chuckle behind her hand, amused by his social distress.
Maynard looks visibly pained by the unwanted attention, confirming Charlotte's suspicions about his misery at social events.
Charlotte watches the Duke from across the room, deciding to step in and save him from his predicament. Charlotte prepares to approach the group, ready to offer the Duke a much-needed and graceful social escape. Charlotte interrupts the noblewomen, falsely claiming that Prince Isaac is calling for the Duke's immediate presence. Charlotte flashes a bright smile while the Duke looks toward her with a great sense of surprise. Charlotte politely beckons the Duke away from his admirers, pretending there is official business requiring his attention. Charlotte takes the Duke's hand and leads him through the ballroom, away from the persistent crowd. Maynard recognizes the lie while chibi Charlotte claims she saved him and asks for a proper thank you. Maynard smiles down at Charlotte, genuinely impressed by her quick wit and willingness to help him escape. Isaac watches the pair from the shadows, furious that Charlotte is enjoying herself while he was imprisoned. The cloaked man asks for permission to capture Charlotte, but Isaac refuses to take such an action. Isaac acknowledges Charlotte's intelligence and her knowledge of the Resurrection Stone, calling her a woman difficult to handle.
Charlotte and Maynard turn in surprise as Prince Isaac steps out from the shadows to confront them.
Isaac approaches with a dark look, and Charlotte immediately wonders what new scheme the prince is plotting. Isaac mocks the Duke's supposed enjoyment of the ball and suggests that they all head back together. Isaac halts their departure, announcing to their mutual shock that Charlotte will soon become his royal bride. Charlotte and Maynard react with intense shock and anger to the prince's sudden and unwanted public claim. Isaac claims he already informed his father of the marriage, but Charlotte declares she would rather die. Charlotte stands her ground with fierce determination, refusing to be intimidated by the prince's arrogant wedding announcement. Isaac warns that Charlotte's refusal won't change the outcome he has already decided for their future together. Isaac commandingly orders Charlotte to follow him, insisting she keep her distance from the Grand Duke. Isaac roughly grabs Charlotte's wrist, attempting to assert his dominance through physical force amidst the ball. Maynard intervenes, stopping Isaac and warning him to cease making such absurd and insulting accusations. Maynard's eyes glow with intensity as he prepares to show the prince his true nature and power. Maynard asserts his status while Isaac demands release, prompting Charlotte to fear a dangerous magical backlash. Charlotte pleads for the conflict to stop, fearing that the tension will only continue to escalate dangerously. Isaac falls backward, looking shocked and insulted, as if he was just struck by the Duke's aggression. Isaac demands why his aid is idling, but the man warns that Duke Maynard is superior. Maynard looms over Isaac, warning that royal status won't protect him from further direct discipline if trouble continues. King Harold suddenly strikes his son, furious that Isaac has ignored repeated orders to avoid the Grand Duke. Harold threatened to cripple Isaac if he ever provoked the Duke's hidden and dangerous nature ever again. Isaac clenches his fist in rage, feeling entirely betrayed by his own father's lack of support. Isaac swears a lethal grudge against Maynard as the Duke and Charlotte walk away into the distant gardens. The scene shifts as the pair walks away from the ballroom's drama across a quiet and moonlit balcony. Maynard asks if Charlotte is frightened, but she is more focused on the prince's inevitable and dark retaliation.
Charlotte worries that Maynard will face severe magical backlash for his physical aggression toward the crown prince.
Maynard smiles with a sense of amusement, claiming he can easily read the worry on Charlotte's face. Maynard reassures Charlotte that physical discipline carries no backlash, promising he can easily handle Isaac without using magic. Charlotte feels temporarily eased, but still insists it is best for both of them to avoid Isaac entirely.
Charlotte realizes the Duke truly understands her thoughts just as a persistent noblewoman's voice interrupts their conversation.
A noblewoman looks on with an eager smile, ready to approach the reclusive and powerful Grand Duke Maynard. Maynard looks visibly distressed as a crowd of noblewomen suddenly descends upon him with great social fervor. The persistent ladies swarmed the Duke, questioning his unusually long stay and demanding his attention for themselves.
Charlotte is taken aback by the overwhelming social intensity, noting that noble ladies are truly terrifying when motivated.
Maynard looks visibly pained by the unwanted attention, confirming Charlotte's suspicions about his misery at social events. Charlotte watches the Duke from across the room, feeling both amused and sorry for his social plight. Maynard politely tries to excuse himself from his admirers, clearly desperate for any form of graceful escape. Maynard places a protective hand on Charlotte, claiming he already has a firm and prior engagement tonight. Maynard boldly declares to the crowd that he will be escorting only Charlotte for the rest of tonight. The Duke leans close to Charlotte, maintaining his charade to effectively ward off the other interested guests. The noblewomen stand in stunned silence after hearing the Duke's very public and bold romantic declaration.
Charlotte protests in a flustered whisper, feeling overwhelmed by the sudden and public nature of the Duke's claim.
Maynard softly admits to Charlotte that he once again owes her for providing him with a social rescue. In chibi form, Charlotte pouts and accuses Maynard of simply using her as a tool for his convenience. Chibi Maynard looks entirely unbothered, asking what other purpose he should be pursuing in the crowded ballroom.
Charlotte puffs out her cheeks in annoyance, clearly displeased with the Duke's casual and pragmatic attitude. Charlotte pleads with the Duke to stop his provocative behavior before he inspires genuine jealousy among the guests.
Maynard dismisses her concern with a smile, telling her not to get worked up over his honest words.
A romantic aura surrounds the two as Maynard pulls Charlotte closer into a sudden and intimate embrace. Maynard gazes intensely at Charlotte, his eyes reflecting a newfound and serious sense of responsibility toward her.
Charlotte's gaze reflects her deep shock as she processes the Duke's bold and unexpected display of public affection.
Charlotte declares with fierce resolve that she would rather die than be forced into the arrogant prince's company.
Maynard smiles faintly, thinking Charlotte is a foolish girl who underestimates her opponent's dangerous and persistent nature. Maynard instructs Charlotte to call for him whenever she is in danger before he makes his quiet exit. Charlotte smiles and accepts his promise of protection, feeling a strange sense of comfort in his presence.
A royal carriage pulls up to the Castlea mansion, signaling the arrival of a high-ranking visitor.
Prince Isaac steps out of his carriage looking incredibly confident as he prepares for a new confrontation. Isaac demands that the Marquis bring Charlotte to him, announcing his personal decision to make her his queen.
The Marquis stares in disbelief, shocked by the prince's sudden and unauthorized claim on his daughter's future.
Isaac asks with a cold and piercing stare if the Marquis thinks he is joking about his intentions.
Isaac argues the marriage will elevate the Marquisite's standing and orders him to prepare Charlotte for the palace.
The Marquis refuses the prince's demand, declaring he intends to respect Charlotte's wishes regarding any marriage proposal.
The air becomes thick with tension as Isaac and the Marquis engage in a silent stare-down. Isaac seethes internally, feeling insulted that a mere Marquis would dare to trample on his royal pride. Isaac walks away with a sinister look, vowing to take Charlotte regardless of her father's stubborn refusal. Charlotte tells her mother she is going to get ready. Her mother questions if she truly intends to leave with the prince. Charlotte explains that refusing the prince would only lead to him retaliating against her parents, so she will handle the situation. Her mother offers to give up their noble title, but Charlotte argues Isaac's nature means he would never forgive them anyway. Charlotte sits before her vanity while her mother carefully tends to her long golden hair. Delicate blue flowers and green leaves frame a soft transitionary moment in the quiet morning. A shimmering ice blue gown adorned with jewels and intricate embroidery hangs ready for the day. Charlotte gazes at her reflection, fully dressed in her formal attire and preparing for battle. The Marquis is shocked to see Charlotte has left her room, but she steps forward to meet the waiting prince. Charlotte asks the prince what urgent business he has with her so early in the morning. Isaac declares his decision to marry her. Charlotte dismisses the claim as a joke, but the prince remains adamant. Isaac takes Charlotte's hand, asserting that his feelings are serious and that he has never loved someone so earnestly. Isaac notes that Charlotte is the first woman to defy him, claiming he will do as he pleases once they marry. Charlotte thinks Isaac only wants to hurt her. She warns that winning her heart will be a difficult challenge for him. Charlotte smiles confidently as she challenges the prince to make a bet regarding their impending marriage. Isaac looks intrigued by the suggestion and asks Charlotte what kind of bet she wants to make. Charlotte proposes that if Isaac still wants to marry her in 1 week, she will grant his request. Isaac wonders what she is plotting, but concludes she cannot accomplish anything significant within a single week. Isaac accepts the terms of the bet and suggests they head to the palace to begin her stay. Charlotte reassures her worried parents that she will be fine as she departs with the prince. Isaac notes how quietly Charlotte is following him, wondering if a woman's heart and body are truly at odds. Isaac promises to treasure Charlotte, but she maintains a cold and skeptical expression as they walk together. Charlotte looks away with an intense stare, silently thinking that she will never believe the prince's fake promises. Charlotte pulls away, reminding Isaac that they are not engaged yet and asking him to maintain his distance. Isaac watches Charlotte walk away, thinking she can only act tough until she is within his territory. Isaac presents an extravagant room to Charlotte, who notes that the royal family certainly provided a lavish space.
Charlotte politely thanks the prince for the room, though she remains cautious of his motives.
In her chibi form, a mischievous Charlotte vows that she will not fall for his charms so easily. Isaac shows off a closet full of dresses, questioning if any lady could resist such an overwhelming temptation. A maid named Iris introduces herself, announcing that she will be serving Charlotte from this day forward. Charlotte asks the maid to call her by name. Isaac remarks that only the finest people serve him and calls for dinner. Isaac presents a dark purple dress, telling Charlotte he would like her to wear it for their dinner together. Charlotte worries about the dress showing too much skin. Isaac secretly plans for her to fall asleep after their dinner. Isaac anticipates having her at his mercy. Chibi Charlotte looks highly suspicious of the prince's sudden generosity. Charlotte agrees to wear the dress and claims she is looking forward to it with a devious smile. Charlotte makes a grand entrance, elegantly dressed in the dark purple, off-the-shoulder gown Isaac provided. Isaac is visibly stunned by Charlotte's appearance, noting that she looks absolutely stunning in the evening dress.
Isaac claims the look is fitting for his bride and promises to protect her from everything starting tonight.
Charlotte tells Isaac to give her a break and reminds him to keep his distance since they are not engaged. Isaac thinks Charlotte's resistance is exactly why she caught his eye as they sit down for their meal. Isaac offers Charlotte a glass of wine. Charlotte realizes she needs to think of a countermeasure immediately. While seated at the table, Charlotte secretly reaches for something behind her back to begin her plan. A silver ring with a green gemstone clatters onto the floor, bouncing near the table. Charlotte panics about the lost ring, claiming it was a gift. Isaac offers to help her find it under the table. Charlotte waits as Isaac agrees to check under the table for the missing piece of jewelry. The green gemmed ring sparkles on the floor as Isaac prepares to retrieve the fallen jewelry. Isaac leans down, reaching for the ring while Charlotte watches him from the table above.
Isaac looks up from under the table, admiring Charlotte and noting that she is a top-class beauty.
Charlotte mentally insults Isaac's behavior, but successfully uses the distraction to swap their wine glasses at the table.
Charlotte asks the prince to put the ring on her finger. Isaac thinks she is finally falling for his charm.
Isaac takes Charlotte's hand and begins to slide the ring onto her finger during dinner.
Charlotte plots to butter up the prince to make him overconfident during their dinner together.
Charlotte compliments the wine and encourages Prince Isaac to share a glass with her. The narrator notes spikes require responsibility while Isaac praises his chef's skill to Charlotte.
Isaac collapses onto the table, prompting chibi Charlotte to mock his total lack of stamina.
Charlotte feigns concern for Isaac before Maynard unexpectedly appears and questions her presence there.
Shocked by Maynard's arrival, Charlotte turns to face the Duke as he stares intensely.
A pair of formal shoes strides purposefully across the floor, heightening the scene's tension.
Maynard asks Charlotte why she would ever allow herself to be dragged into Isaac's palace. Charlotte remains composed and asks the Duke if he came here seeking something from her.
Maynard claims he only wanted to see who Isaac's future bride would be today.
Chibi Charlotte erupts in anger, demanding to know if he intended that as an insult.
Maynard insists he is serious, while Charlotte explains that Isaac will never stop pursuing her.
Charlotte stares ahead with a troubled expression, processing the weight of her current situation.
Maynard questions her understanding of Isaac and warns of danger, but Charlotte trusts his protection.
Maynard gazes at Charlotte with surprise, asking if she truly places that much trust in him.
Maynard dismisses her choice but asks for her plan after realizing he came all this way.
Charlotte firmly tells the Duke to head back and leave the rest of the situation to her. Maynard calls himself an idiot for rushing over and sarcastically encourages Prince Isaac's bride.
Maynard leaps out of the open window, making a swift and silent exit from the palace.
Charlotte watches him go, wondering if the prospect of her marriage truly bothers the Duke.
Charlotte decides it is time for Isaac's punishment and orders him to wake up immediately.
Charlotte kicks the unconscious prince, declaring that his fun is over and her real fun begins.
Charlotte reveals a secret box, plotting to use a special mattress that discourages unwanted touch.
A mysterious yellow liquid spills across the surface as Charlotte carries out her mischievous plan. Chibi Charlotte celebrates her success before telling the maids to carry the drunk prince to bed.
Elegant white roses frame a peaceful morning transition as the scene moves to the bedroom.
Charlotte tells the maids that the prince won't rest well unless they fully undress him first.
Chibi Isaac sleeps soundly, completely unaware of the uncomfortable surprise Charlotte has left for him.
Charlotte claims Isaac prefers sleeping nude and orders his clothes removed, making the maids hesitate.
Charlotte stays firm, telling the maids she will find someone else if they cannot comply. Iris steps forward to handle the task, and Charlotte graciously excuses herself for the night.
Isaac's eyes snap open with a sudden and agonizing scream as he awakens in pain.
Isaac wakes up scratching frantically, shouting that his entire body is itching everywhere. Isaac demands to know who undressed him, while Iris admits she did, but remains confused. Isaac shoves Iris away in a panicked frenzy, unable to stop the intense itching sensation. Isaac yells for a doctor immediately as he tries to cope with the unbearable irritation. Isaac seethes with realization, certain that Charlotte is the one responsible for his current misery.
Isaac screams Charlotte's name in rage, desperately trying to resist the urge to scratch himself.
Isaac orders Charlotte to be brought to him, and she appears looking perfectly innocent.
Isaac points an accusing finger at Charlotte, demanding to know what she did to him.
Charlotte notes that her plan worked perfectly while Isaac stares at her with intense suspicion.
Isaac grabs Charlotte roughly by her neck and shoulder, his expression filled with physical agony.
Isaac demands answers about dinner, but Charlotte claims he simply got drunk and passed out. Isaac stares at Charlotte, silently questioning if she truly orchestrated this entire embarrassing ordeal. The bedroom door opens to reveal the royal doctor and Iris arriving for an urgent examination.
Iris leads the way as she prepares to bring medical assistance to the suffering prince. Isaac orders the maid to let the doctor in for his urgent medical examination. Isaac tells Charlotte to step out, and she agrees to wait for his recovery. Charlotte leaves Isaac in Iris's care, and the maid promises to look after the prince. Iris thinks to herself that she has served Isaac far longer than Charlotte ever has. The royal physician treats Prince Isaac's inflamed neck, warning him that further scratching will cause more damage.
Isaac remains bedridden and frustrated as the medical examination of his mysterious condition continues.
Isaac yells that the itching is unbearable, but the physician admits he cannot yet determine the cause. Iris tries to comfort the enraged prince, assuring him that the palace physician will find a cure. Isaac asks Iris about the previous night, and she explains that Charlotte called for help carrying him. Isaac suspects Charlotte's involvement before the physician requests that he lower his trousers for a full examination.
The physician gasps in horror, realizing that the prince's physical condition is far worse than he imagined. Isaac panics about his ruined manhood, but the doctor orders a month of rest for serious recovery.
Iris laments that the prince is barred from his favorite pastimes for an entire month due to Charlotte.
Charlotte overhears a scream from the prince's room and struggles to hide her mischievous, satisfied laughter. A sharp yelp echoes through the hallway, making Charlotte recoil as she monitors the success of her plan.
Maynard suddenly appears behind Charlotte, covering her mouth to keep her silent within the palace hallway. In their chibi forms, Maynard identifies himself to a startled Charlotte to calm her down. Maynard notes the palace is frantically searching for a doctor and asks Charlotte if she is responsible.
Charlotte smugly confirms her plan to repel the prince is working perfectly as she talks with Maynard.
Chibi Charlotte gives a triumphant thumbs up, celebrating the success of her untraceable revenge against the prince.
Maynard questions Charlotte's motives for being in the hallway and asks what she truly wants from him.
Maynard warns Charlotte that the king has ordered a thorough investigation into the prince's sudden, strange ailment.
Charlotte remains confident, claiming her odorless and colorless trick is already absorbed and impossible for anyone to prove.
Charlotte leans in close to Maynard, teasingly telling the Duke that her methods must remain a secret.
Charlotte pushes Maynard away, urging him to leave before their secret meeting is discovered by palace guards. Maynard agrees to depart but tells Charlotte to call for him immediately if any further danger arises.
The king and Maynard walk through the Grand Palace Hall to confront Isaac about his medical emergency.
Isaac asks the king if a cause has been found while Charlotte watches from a distance behind.
The king informs the prince that even the best royal physicians are unable to identify his illness.
The king examines Isaac's arm, which is covered in painful red welts caused by Charlotte's secret plan. The king questions the illness while bluntly mentioning Isaac's injured private parts, causing the prince great embarrassment. Isaac begs his father to stop discussing his sensitive medical details in front of the others present. The king dismisses Isaac's shame, stating that Maynard and Charlotte are essentially part of the family anyway. Chibi Charlotte laughs to herself, finding the prince's public humiliation and physical suffering to be absolutely priceless. Charlotte puts on a fake smile and promises the king she will devote herself to Isaac's recovery. Isaac ignores his pain to suggest a garden walk tomorrow, leaving Charlotte surprised by his persistent behavior. Isaac secretly vows to find another way to claim Charlotte since his initial plans were ruined tonight. Back in her room, Charlotte sits on her bed and wonders what the prince is plotting next. Charlotte resolves that she must prepare herself to be rescued if things turn deadly during the garden visit.
Charlotte stares ahead with determination, realizing she cannot afford to let her guard down for a moment.
Charlotte activates a magical crest on her palm, preparing to summon the Duke to her side immediately. Maynard appears in a swirl of blue magic, noting it is Charlotte's first time actually summoning him. Maynard reminds Charlotte of his demonic nature while she confirms that she intentionally called for his help.
Chibi Charlotte is pleased by Maynard's speed and informs him of the prince's plan for the gardens.
Maynard stands tall and confirms he is already aware of the prince's intentions regarding their upcoming walk. Charlotte looks up at Maynard, asking if she may summon him again if she encounters danger tomorrow. Maynard asks if he was dragged out at midnight just for a confirmation about her safety tomorrow.
Maynard suggests simply refusing the marriage, but Charlotte explains the prince will never stop pursuing his targets.
Maynard notes that Charlotte seems to have a very deep understanding of the prince's obsessive and tyrannical personality. Charlotte explains the prince is a tyrant who will target her family if she continues to defy him. Maynard declares he would rather return to the demon realm than live under such an unfit human king. Charlotte hears someone approaching her door and urgently tells Maynard to make his escape at once.
Charlotte turns toward the door as the prince enters, asking what brings him to her room so late.
Chibi Charlotte is stunned by the prince's speed as he enters her room to continue his pursuit.
Isaac approaches Charlotte late at night, questioning what she is doing out at this hour. Isaac claims he just wanted to see her face, but Charlotte politely suggests meeting tomorrow. Isaac secretly harbors dark thoughts while Chibi Charlotte wishes she had punished him more severely. Isaac bids Charlotte goodnight with a gentle touch before they part for the evening.
Chibi Charlotte expresses her visceral disgust at Isaac's touch by dramatically vomiting a colorful rainbow.
The scene shifts to the bright and lush atmosphere of the royal castle gardens. Vibrant purple and white flowers bloom beautifully under the clear, sunny sky and the garden. Charlotte and Isaac walk through the gardens together, dressed elegantly for a formal outdoor occasion. Isaac vows to win Charlotte over with sincerity while she remains skeptical of his true character. Isaac offers Charlotte a flower, comparing it to her beauty, but she finds it incredibly cliché. Isaac asks Charlotte to close her eyes as they stop in a quiet part of the garden.
Isaac tells Charlotte he has prepared a special surprise intended solely to make her happy.
Charlotte remains wary, internally wondering what kind of scheme the prince is plotting this time. Isaac steps behind Charlotte and gently blindfolds her with a length of blue silk ribbon. Isaac guides the blindfolded Charlotte further into the garden, holding her hand to lead the way. They arrive at a decorative pavilion where Isaac begins to untie Charlotte's blindfold for the reveal. Isaac presents an open ring box, confessing his love for Charlotte from the bottom of his heart. Isaac drops to one knee and officially asks Charlotte to marry him in a public proposal. Charlotte is visibly shocked by the sudden proposal, questioning if the prince is actually being serious. Isaac arrogantly believes she is happy while onlookers encourage a quick answer to his grand proposal. Charlotte panics, realizing that a public rejection could trigger a dangerous revenge from the unstable prince.
Charlotte feels trapped, knowing that accepting the proposal with so many witnesses makes her escape impossible.
A sense of dread washes over Charlotte as she realizes marrying Isaac would be an absolute disaster. Charlotte suddenly spots Duke Maynard in the crowd, realizing she is the only one who can see him.
Maynard discreetly casts a dark spell, sending a wave of malevolent energy toward the unsuspecting prince.
Isaac begins to scream in agony, shouting that his entire body is suddenly itching uncontrollably.
Charlotte feigns concern while Isaac apologizes, explaining that the intense irritation is spreading everywhere.
Charlotte asks if his mysterious illness has returned, and Isaac confirms the symptoms are the same.
Isaac asks to be sent back to his room immediately while Charlotte calls for a doctor.
Charlotte looks across the garden to see Maynard watching the chaotic scene with a calm expression. Maynard gives a subtle, knowing nod to Charlotte before she turns her attention back to Isaac. A close-up reveals the intricate details of Maynard's formal uniform as he stands among the flowers.
Charlotte watches with a troubled expression as the prince's condition rapidly deteriorates in front of everyone.
Isaac flees the garden at high speed, leaving a stunned Charlotte to marvel at his quick exit.
Back in the palace, Charlotte assures the suffering prince that medical help will arrive very soon.
The royal physician begins a physical examination of Isaac while Charlotte observes from the bedside.
Charlotte worries about the magical backlash Isaac is suffering while realizing he won't let her leave.
Charlotte watches the bedridden prince, contemplating her next move to escape his suffocating presence.
Isaac misinterprets Charlotte's gaze as genuine worry, which leaves her feeling completely bewildered and annoyed.
Isaac claims he is fine, but Charlotte insists on leaving to find a more specialized doctor.
Isaac desperately asks where she is going, fearing that she might be planning to abandon him.
Charlotte lies about seeking a renowned physician she knows to examine his suspicious and recurring symptoms. Isaac is touched by her perceived devotion, while Charlotte is secretly revolted by his massive misunderstanding.
Charlotte confirms her plan to fetch a doctor, using the excuse to finally exit the dooring.
Charlotte pulls her hand away from Isaac's grasp, eager to distance herself from his touch.
Isaac thinks Charlotte is cute for blushing as she runs off, unaware of her true intentions. Charlotte meets Iris in the hallway and instructs her to stay and care for the prince.
Iris points out that palace doctors are already available, questioning why Charlotte needs to go out.
Charlotte encourages Iris to seize this chance to get closer to the prince she secretly loves.
Iris blushes furiously and tries to deny her feelings as Charlotte makes her swift getaway.
Charlotte looks over her shoulder with a surprised expression in the palace hallway.
She appears shocked, as if witnessing something completely unexpected or sensing a nearby presence. Standing in a field of flowers, Charlotte calls out for Lord Maynard to appear.
Charlotte urgently begs Maynard to come out, insisting that she knows he can hear her.
Surrounded by magical circles, Charlotte expresses her certainty that Maynard is suffering alone right now.
Maynard suddenly appears with massive demon wings and catches Charlotte in a field of flowers.
Maynard winces in pain, noting that a magical backlash has finally struck him. Maynard asks why she isn't with Isaac and questions what she wants from him.
Maynard collapses as Charlotte frantically offers her help and asks how to ease his pain.
Maynard insists that he will be fine if he simply endures the passing pain.
Maynard scolds her for Isaac's proposal, but Charlotte explains she hears Isaac's heartless inner voice.
Maynard warns he will not help her next time, while Charlotte promises to be careful. The two share a quiet and intense gaze amidst a shower of glowing flower petals.
Maynard asks Charlotte to stay for a while, and she softly agrees to his request.
As Maynard rests his eyes, Charlotte reflects on how truly beautiful the Duke's face is. They sit together in a peaceful silence, sheltered within the Duke's large, dark wings.
Chibi Charlotte panics, questioning if she has actually fallen in love with Lord Maynard. Charlotte blushes deeply and hides her face in her hands, overwhelmed by her stray thoughts.
She realizes her earlier panic was born from genuine worry for the Duke's well-being.
Maynard teases Charlotte for being restless while gently patting her head in the flowery garden.
Charlotte admits to herself that she does not hate being close to him at all.
Charlotte notices that Maynard is still silently holding in a great deal of internal pain.
Maynard is surprised when Charlotte tells him it is okay to cry out in pain.
Maynard explains his contract's backlash and notes that only true love can free him.
Maynard wonders if he loves her, yet doubts it because his pain has not vanished.
Charlotte is relieved when Maynard finally claims to be feeling much better than before.
Maynard decides to rest for a short while longer in the quiet, flowery field.
Chibi Charlotte responds with an enthusiastic yes to Maynard's request to rest together.
Maynard tells Charlotte to keep her distance because her proximity makes him feel on edge.
The scene transitions through a soft focus on blooming flowers and vibrant green leaves.
Maynard prepares to leave and asks Charlotte where they are currently located. Glowing magic circles and mechanical gears signify the start of a magical teleportation sequence. The magical intensity increases as Charlotte and Maynard move between locations. They suddenly materialize in the middle of a grand royal hall surrounded by flowers. Prince Isaac and the king stand in the background, surprised by their sudden appearance.
Charlotte politely bows to the king, offering her respects before intending to excuse herself.
Isaac angrily demands to know why Charlotte is with Maynard instead of calling a doctor.
Charlotte claims she brought Maynard as a doctor to cure the prince's mysterious illness.
Isaac questions his father's trust in Maynard while the king looks on with concern. The king begs Maynard to treat his son, ignoring Isaac's protest regarding Maynard's rank.
Isaac rages about Maynard's status as a retainer until the king commandingly silences him.
Declaring their departure, Isaac grabs Charlotte's hand and pulls her away from the others.
Charlotte notes how quickly Isaac loses his temper as he aggressively drags her along.
Charlotte looks back with an expression of slight annoyance at Isaac's forceful behavior.
Isaac demands an explanation for her relationship with Maynard, which she claims is nothing.
Charlotte insists her visit to Maynard was strictly to seek help for the prince's health.
Isaac warns her to stay away and vows to make her his regardless of everything.
Charlotte scolds Isaac for his rudeness while he sulks over his father's actions.
Maynard suddenly appears behind them, reminding Charlotte of her request for medical aid.
Isaac orders Maynard away as Charlotte worries another heated confrontation is about to begin. Charlotte watches Duke Maynard with a worried expression, fearing the magical backlash he might suffer from using his powers.
Isaac tightly grips Charlotte's hands while ordering Maynard to leave the area immediately, much to her distress.
Charlotte internally pleads for the situation to end, desperate to prevent Maynard from enduring any further physical pain.
Isaac questions if Charlotte is taking Maynard's side, but she clarifies she only wants to stop the Duke's suffering.
Isaac grows suspicious of their proximity and crudely asks Charlotte if she is attempting to maintain relationships with both men.
Charlotte places a hand to her forehead, overwhelmed by the prince's ridiculous and offensive accusations during their confrontation. Charlotte refutes the claims while Isaac notes how Maynard always rushes to her defense, questioning the true nature of their bond.
Charlotte is left momentarily speechless and visibly shaken by the prince's blunt insinuation that she and Maynard are a couple.
Isaac secretly decides that if Maynard truly loves Charlotte, he will find a way to use that against them. Isaac plans to treat Charlotte as a mere plaything despite the Duke, while Charlotte senses his vile thoughts. Charlotte realizes she must escape the prince's presence quickly, but she suddenly loses her footing and begins to fall.
Isaac catches Charlotte as she slips, his touch accompanied by an ominous aura represented by dark red spider lilies.
Isaac attempts to force a kiss on Charlotte in broad daylight, leaving her feeling absolutely violated and completely stunned.
Chibi Charlotte expresses her intense rage and disgust as Chibi Isaac continues his unwanted and persistent romantic advances.
Duke Maynard intervenes by placing a firm hand on the prince's head, preventing the fight from escalating any further. Maynard stands tall and unimpressed, criticizing the crown prince for his frivolous and embarrassing behavior in a public setting. Isaac is knocked to the ground and demands to know what right the Duke has to interfere in his affairs. Maynard calmly explains that his high status allows him to speak frankly even to the king, justifying his current intervention. Isaac makes a desperate death threat, but Maynard remains entirely unfazed and invites the prince to try his best.
The prince storms away in a blind rage while Maynard watches his departure with a cold and steady gaze.
Charlotte worries about the prince's revenge while Maynard questions if she has fallen for Isaac's possessive and overbearing nature. Maynard reflects on his own sudden fury and regrets speaking so harshly to Charlotte before addressing her once again.
A maid approaches the pair with a formal message stating that the queen has invited Charlotte to a tea party. The maid reveals that Duke Maynard is also on the guest list, causing both Charlotte and the Duke great surprise. Charlotte fears the queen's summons is a trap because of Isaac, but Maynard asks if she is truly afraid.
Maynard reassures Charlotte that she will not be alone during the meeting, promising to accompany her to the tea party. Charlotte explains that she couldn't push Isaac away because of his physical strength, resolving Maynard's earlier suspicions about her feelings.
A gentle touch highlights a moment of silent understanding and growing closeness between Charlotte and the Duke in the garden.
Maynard offers a rare, soft smile as he accepts Charlotte's explanation, and she responds with a look of genuine relief. Vibrant yellow and white flowers bloom in the garden, signaling a shift in the atmosphere as the next day begins.
The scene moves to a lavish white pavilion where preparations for the queen's formal garden tea party are complete. The queen, an elegant woman with long silver hair, sits alone in the pavilion, gracefully enjoying a cup of tea.
Charlotte arrives at the pavilion and performs a deep, respectful curtsy to greet Her Majesty the Queen as requested.
The queen welcomes Charlotte warmly, while Charlotte politely remarks on the queen's legendary beauty to maintain proper royal etiquette. The queen mentions Isaac's high praise for Charlotte, who maintains a fake smile while wondering where Duke Maynard is.
The queen leads Charlotte on a stroll through the palace grounds, maintaining an air of maternal warmth and royal grace.
The queen reveals she knows about Isaac's proposal in the garden, watching Charlotte's reaction with a knowing and sharp gaze.
Charlotte confirms the event occurred, and the queen claims she has no intention of getting in the way of them.
The queen suddenly suggests holding the wedding within the current month, catching Charlotte completely off guard with the rapid timeline.
Charlotte tries to object, but the queen dismisses her concerns and insists that Charlotte should simply marry her son.
Dark, thorny branches frame the scene, reflecting Charlotte's growing sense of entrapment and the danger of her current situation. Charlotte panics at being forced into marriage while the queen presents her to Isaac, praising her as a lovely lady.
Isaac stands close to Charlotte as she realizes the queen's rare praise is likely a manipulative tactic to secure the marriage.
The queen officially sets the wedding date for the end of the month, leaving Charlotte furious at the lack of choice. Charlotte looks down in disbelief, realizing the royals are planning her entire life without even waiting for her verbal consent.
Isaac happily agrees with his mother's plan, towering over a frustrated Charlotte who is struggling to keep her composure.
Charlotte finally snaps and firmly declines the marriage proposal, just as Duke Maynard arrives to support her bold decision.
Maynard approaches the royal family with a smirk, acknowledging Charlotte's incredible nerve in refusing the queen's direct suggestion.
The Duke continues to mock the situation, noting that it takes significant courage to reject the queen to her face.
The queen asks if Charlotte finds Isaac unacceptable, and Charlotte admits she cannot marry him because her heart belongs elsewhere.
Isaac demands to know the identity of the person Charlotte loves while she explains that her heart now belongs elsewhere.
Charlotte stands alone with a distressed expression, clutching her chest as she processes the day's tense events.
Charlotte pays her respects to the queen, asking for forgiveness after frankly confessing her true feelings regarding the proposal.
The queen acknowledges Charlotte's courage and tells Isaac to find a true love before Charlotte takes her leave.
Maynard praises Charlotte for navigating the situation properly, but she remains uncertain about the magnitude of her actions.
A sense of overwhelming panic washes over Charlotte as she clutches her head in a moment of distress.
Charlotte reflects on her bravery, realizing that Lord Maynard's presence made her feel as if there was nothing to fear. Maynard watches Charlotte from a distance, remarking to himself that the courage she showed is her true self.
Maynard explains that outsiders should avoid the royals' argument while warning Charlotte that her family will face consequences.
Chibi Charlotte asks for a solution, and Maynard suggests forming a protective contract with one specific condition.
Maynard asks Charlotte to become his, admitting that he has been a lonely demon for a very long time.
Charlotte reacts with visible shock, stammering as she asks if his request means he wants her to marry him.
Maynard clarifies he simply wants to keep her for himself, urging her to decide before he returns to the realm.
The pair stand together in the garden, framed by soft light as Charlotte considers the weight of his proposal.
Charlotte experiences a moment of deep suspicion, wondering if the Duke is finally revealing his true manipulative colors.
Maynard leans in close to Charlotte's face, telling her there is no need to rush her final decision.
Maynard offers Charlotte a one-time privilege to use his power, promising she will understand its value in real danger.
Charlotte questions why the Duke acted so decisively today, while Maynard admits the words simply came out on their own.
Maynard gently pats Charlotte on the head and remarks that she has grown, leaving her feeling completely bewildered.
Maynard praises Charlotte for stating her position firmly and reminds her that she now has him by her side.
Maynard explains that a contract would grant her access to his demonic power, encouraging her to think over the offer.
Charlotte asks if there are other conditions, but Maynard claims he only wants what she can personally offer him.
A focused panel highlights Charlotte's mouth as she solemnly offers the Duke her heart as part of their contract.
Charlotte stands firmly before the Duke, declaring she will offer him her heart if they truly form a contract.
Maynard repeats Charlotte's offer with a look of intrigue, his voice echoing against a backdrop of blue flowers.
Charlotte clarifies that she cannot give him her body but is willing to offer her heart for his protection.
Charlotte specifies that the heart she is offering is the kind of heart one would give to a friend.
Maynard says he will think on it before cheekily adding he wants her body too, and then vanishing.
Charlotte is left flustered and blushing, wondering why she doesn't feel angry at his bold and scandalous request.
Night falls over the mansion as Charlotte's father asks if she really turned down the Queen's formal proposal.
Charlotte confirms she refused the marriage, explaining that she had to act then or lose control of her life.
Charlotte's father warns that the Queen is cold-hearted but vows to protect his daughter from any further unpleasantness.
Charlotte promises to appeal to the king if needed, but her father reminds her that noble marriages are complex. Charlotte's father places a reassuring hand on her shoulder, reaffirming his commitment to protect her no matter what.
Charlotte offers a bright, genuine smile and thanks her father for his unwavering support against the royal family.
Charlotte takes a peaceful walk through the town, enjoying the scenery and the freedom of the bustling streets. Prince Isaac watches Charlotte from a distance, noting how carefree she appears to be while strolling through the town.
A cloaked figure asks if they should seize her, but Isaac decides they should wait until the night. Isaac suddenly approaches Charlotte from behind, mockingly asking if she came all this way just to see him.
Charlotte insists her heart is settled, but Isaac leans in close and questions if he is truly broad-minded.
Charlotte wonders about his intentions as Isaac grabs her hand, vowing to make her beg to marry him.
Chibi Charlotte is horrified while the scene shifts back to her mansion as she prepares to hide indoors. Charlotte walks away as Isaac expresses his curiosity regarding how clever and skilled she will prove to be.
Isaac and his cloaked companion watch Charlotte depart, planning to make their move under the cover of night.
Back at the mansion, Charlotte instructs her maid to lock all the doors and let absolutely no one inside.
Charlotte resolves to stay home until Maynard returns, questioning why she is automatically waiting for the Duke's help.
The maid asks if Charlotte misses the Duke, but Isaac's voice suddenly interrupts, announcing he has already snuck in.
Isaac and his cloaked wizard stand hidden in the mansion as Charlotte and her maid walk through the hallway.
At Isaac's command, the cloaked wizard casts a powerful sleep spell that begins to envelop the unsuspecting pair.
Charlotte collapses while her maid cries out in terror upon spotting the intruders standing at the end of the hall.
The wizard insults the girl while casting magic, explaining he needs more information about her.
He decides to hand her over to Prince Isaac as a magic aura surrounds her. The wizard is perplexed when his magic spell is absorbed and reflected back by her body. Isaac questions the scene while the wizard claims the woman possesses strange and unexpected magical abilities. Isaac is suddenly blasted backward by a mysterious light after disregarding the wizard's frantic warning.
Isaac refuses to believe she has magic, but resolves to capture her tonight at any cost.
Charlotte's bright blue eyes snap open as she begins to wake from the wizard's spell.
Confused about falling asleep, Charlotte is startled to see the prince intending to kidnap her.
Charlotte yells at the prince not to touch her as magic repels his reach once more. Charlotte credits the Duke's magic for protecting her while the confused prince demands an explanation.
Charlotte mockingly asks if the prince has lost his nerve while he fumes in silent anger. Charlotte warns Isaac about acting on anger as he decides to retreat for the time being.
After the prince departs, Charlotte questions why the wizard is still lingering in her presence. Darius threatens Charlotte's life if she lied about the Resurrection Stone's hidden location in the castle. Charlotte celebrates her own bravery and wit as she remains alone in the grand room.
Her maid rushes into the room, terrified by the immense danger her mistress just faced alone.
Charlotte reassures her maid that she will soon be completely safe from any future royal threats. She playfully keeps her plans a secret when her maid asks for more specific details. Sensing the Duke nearby, Charlotte dismisses her maid to have a private conversation with him. The maid departs as requested while Charlotte waits for her silent protector to reveal himself.
Maynard appears, impressed by her perception, and asks who tried to touch her earlier.
Chibi Charlotte excitedly thanks Maynard for his magic, which proved incredibly helpful against the intruders. Maynard reminds her of his earlier offer and asks if she has finally accepted the contract. Charlotte hesitates as she brings up the specific conditions required to seal their eternal bond. Maynard explains that an eternal contract requires their physical bodies to be joined together.
He clarifies that becoming one will allow her to use his powerful magic freely whenever needed.
Charlotte reacts with extreme shock and pushes him away from her in the quiet room. She finds the condition Maynard teases her about the deal's fairness, threatening to stop protecting her if she refuses. Charlotte weighs the risks, considering if joining the Duke is better than falling into Isaac's hands.
Making a bold choice, Charlotte finally agrees to the terms of the Duke's magical contract. A close-up reveals the Duke's intense gaze as he registers her unexpected and firm agreement.
Maynard is stunned when his joke backfires because Charlotte actually took his suggestion quite seriously.
Charlotte teases the Duke for becoming shy despite his many centuries of existence as a demon.
When Maynard asks if she is certain, Charlotte insists she has no other way to survive. The two stand close together as the atmosphere between them grows heavy with anticipation. Charlotte declares she is fully prepared for whatever the contract requires of her.
A bead of sweat rolls down the Duke's face as he struggles with the awkward situation.
Maynard makes an excuse about his low magic power to delay the actual contract formation. He bestows another magic blessing upon her before making a hasty and flustered exit.
Charlotte watches him vanish, wondering if the powerful Duke was actually embarrassed by her resolve.
Maynard wonders why his heart is racing now that she is serious about the contract. He realizes he might be genuinely drawn to her since her presence eases his magic backlash. A sudden realization hits the Duke as he contemplates his true feelings for the young lady. Maynard awkwardly lingers in chibi form before flying away, leaving Charlotte determined to seal the deal.
The maid announces Victoria's arrival, which delights Charlotte as she was hoping for a visit.
Victoria greets her friend warmly and suggests they sit down to have a long overdue chat. The two friends embrace warmly in a shower of flower petals and bright sparkles. Victoria whispers a request for Charlotte to help her pick out a special shopping gift. Charlotte happily agrees and prepares to head out for a day of shopping with her friend. Walking through the city, Victoria notes the lively atmosphere while Charlotte explains the local gift-giving trends. Victoria reminds Charlotte of the upcoming royal ball and gushes about the man she adores. As they shop, Victoria admires a ribbon while Charlotte decides to purchase a tea set.
Charlotte picks teaware for Maynard, prompting Victoria to gossip about Charlotte's rejected proposal from Isaac.
Charlotte smiles, reflecting on how other ladies are easily fooled by Prince Isaac's superficial charms. A beautifully decorated, floral-patterned porcelain tea set sits prominently on a dark wooden display table. Charlotte picks up a cup and asks the shopkeeper to wrap the set as a gift. Isaac watches from afar, cynically claiming that women often mask their true feelings with cold behavior. Isaac scolds his companion, pointing out the tea set and questioning who in the city enjoys tea. The companion assumes the gift is for Isaac, who believes Charlotte is simply trying to bait him. Isaac arrogantly expects a gift soon, while his companion privately concludes the prince is a delusional idiot. The two friends arrive at a grand estate, both carrying beautifully wrapped presents for their respective interests. Charlotte reflects that many nobles enjoy tea, making it a safe and elegant choice for a gift.
Victoria is surprised Charlotte recognized Maynard's mansion, but Charlotte clarifies she is visiting her own contact.
Victoria confirms that her friend works at the mansion, leading the way toward the large entrance.
Victoria checks if Charlotte is ready to enter the massive building as they ascend the steps together. Inside the mansion, a man with dark hair and a formal suit notices their arrival with surprise.
Victoria happily greets Kane with a warm embrace, confessing how much she wanted to see him.
After witnessing their affectionate reunion, Charlotte prepares to depart, but Victoria asks if she's leaving.
Duke Maynard suddenly appears, startling Kane and Victoria by announcing that Charlotte's departure is not necessary.
Maynard offers to personally guide Charlotte through the estate, taking her hand as they walk away together. Surrounded by flowers, Maynard asks Charlotte why she chose to visit him at his mansion today.
Charlotte gazes up at the Duke, her expression a mix of surprise and growing curiosity.
Maynard offers a gentle, charming smile while standing amidst a garden of glowing, vibrant lilies.
Maynard claims they share a lifelong contract, shocking Kane into apologizing while Charlotte ponders the deal's weight. Charlotte beams as she asks Lord Kane to look after Victoria, excited to spend time with Maynard.
Charlotte presents her gift to Maynard, explaining she found something perfect for him while shopping earlier.
Maynard questions her impulsiveness, but Charlotte admits she is eager to finalize their magical contract immediately.
Charlotte references his earlier claim of a lifelong bond, and Maynard prepares to explain the specific terms.
Maynard describes the shared magic and sensory link, which Charlotte finds surprisingly appealing and wonderful.
While Maynard promises to protect her from his pain, Charlotte worries about feeling the impact of blows.
Maynard reassures her that no one dares strike him, and Charlotte accepts this as a fair condition.
Chibi Charlotte looks intensely determined, clenching her fists as she resolves to see the deal through. Maynard reveals the final requirement of physical union, and Charlotte agrees instantly, surprising him with her boldness.